Now this is a story all about how my bar got flipped turned upside down, and just take a minute, sit right there. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about all of this beer. Today is the day we're going to try a shed load of generic American beer, some of it a bit more generic than others, but I've been to every single supermarket I can think of in the UK, and I've come away with 7 beers, well, from the Americas at the very least. We have, of course, got the one and only Budweiser. This is unfortunately a massive bottle, so I hope it tastes better than I recall. We've got a Corona, which, yes, is not made in the US of A, but is made in Mexico, which is in the Americas, and as far as I'm aware, is very popular in America, so it's kind of relevant. Then we've got another American beer, which, to be honest, I wasn't all that aware of. This is Modelo. It's a 4.5% lager, and we have, well, one from Goose Island. We're into the kind of the 2 craft beers now. This is a Goose Island Goose on the Loose India Pale Lager, and the fact that it comes in a 330ml can and is stamped with the Aldi supermarket logo makes me question its authenticity a bit, but, well, it's an American brand, if nothing else. Please let me know if you do get that in the United States or not. And then, of course, the one and only, the daddy of American craft beer, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I've had this many times and I absolutely adore it, so I would imagine that's going to rank pretty highly on this list. We've got Coors. This is, I don't know if this is the same as Coors Light or not. I'm pretty sure this used to be branded as Coors Light in the UK, but now it's not. It's 4% on the nose. So yeah, is that regular Coors or Coors Light in the US? I don't really know. And then one that, to be honest, well, it's had a bit of attention recently. Rightly or wrongly, it's Bud Light. I've managed to go my entire life without ever trying a Bud Light, and to be honest, I thought I would make it all the way through, but apparently today that's going to change. This is coming in at a measly 3.5%. That is sessionable, if not, well, tap water, but I'm hoping to have my opinion changed here. The preconception in the UK is that generic American beer, well, to be honest, it's a bit watery, it's a bit bland, and, well, it's just not very interesting. If you're not really into strong flavoured beers, then people do buy them. You can buy Bud Light in pretty much every shop I went to, regular Budweiser and Corona. The others, not so much. Actually, I tell a lie, Coors is probably more popular right here, right now than Bud Light is, but Bud Light seems to be having a bit of a push in the UK right now, so it's pretty easy to get. But yeah, today I'm going to test all of these. I'm going to rank them 1 through 7. The best one's going to sit over here in number 1. The worst is going to sit over here in number 7. And, well, I guess we'll find out. Corona is where we're going to start, and provided there's none of the virus around, this should be quite a good day. Sounded good. Slight skunky note on that bottle. This is normally drank with lime. It's not fair to start adding additions to all of these beers, some with, some without, so we're drinking it straight up. In the glass, it has to be said, it's not a terrible looking beer. It's got very light colour to it. Nice big frothy foamy head. It's not quite as a skunky aroma in the bottle now. For those unaware, skunked beer is basically, well, when UV light gets to it, maybe changes some of it a little bit. That is more prevalent in clear and green bottles. It's why a lot of traditional UK beers come in dark brown bottles, because they are kind of UV light repellent, whereas these definitely are not, and that kind of explains it. But I have to say, despite what I smelt on opening, this one's pretty much representative of a standard bottle of Corona. So let's give it a go. Cheers. Now, something that I have noticed happens when I do these kind of either blind or just ranking tests is that the first beer always tastes quite good, just because, well, it's the first beer of the day. It's getting towards the end of the afternoon on a Sunday, I'm having a nice time, I'm relaxed, I'm talking to you lovely people, and whilst it's not the most interesting thing in the world, I'd be hard pressed to tell you I wasn't enjoying it. It is dull, it is bland, it's not got much going for it, it's just a pretty generic beer. That said, there's nothing really wrong with it, so I'm going to sit this, well, bang in the middle. We're going to go at number 4, which of course leads us on to the next beer, and that is going to be Budweiser, the king of beers, allegedly. How does Budweiser differ from a traditional UK or European lager? Well, it's a rice lager. They use a lot of rice in the production of Budweiser, which does give it some differences. It is a bit lighter, it is a bit thinner. Again, traditional, well, to be fair, traditional UK lager is bad, but it has some flavour. It's just whether those flavours are actually good or not is the bit that's up for debate. This, as I recall, not a lot of flavour, and this isn't even the light version, so it'll be interesting. However, one thing that Budweiser always does, which kind of I find amusing, screw tops. for whatever reason, don't get a lot of screw top beer in the UK other than Budweiser. And this one doesn't want to play. There we go. See, that bottle definitely isn't skunked. It doesn't smell like there's much wrong with that. Let's get it into a glass. Comparing to the Corona, it's very similar. It might have a bit more clarity to it, although that could be cold chill on the glass of the Corona, but it's very clear, it's very light bodied by the look of it. The head, not as much, doesn't seem to be as carbonated as the Corona was, but the head maybe looks a little bit slicker. The aroma's basically non-existent. I mean, the Corona isn't a big and brash beer. It shouldn't really affect my experience of the Budweiser, and somehow there's the tiniest light floral note in there, but that's literally all I'm getting. Otherwise, well, yeah, it's pretty bland. Let's give it a taste, shall we? Cheers again. See, that's interesting. That's a bit more malt forward, a bit more... Yeah, weirdly, actually, I think Budweiser Original has... I'm torn. It has maybe what I'd consider a better taste profile than the Corona in terms of balancing the minimal hop and malt volume that is in there. But then again, that taste is even more subdued than the Corona is. This is kind of wild. The fact that these two aren't considered light beers and they're so dialed back and just you're kind of void of character compared to a lot of European styles, and we've still got the light beers to go, worries me quite a lot. I'm torn. I feel like the taste is a bit better, but actually overall as an enjoyment experience, I think I'd still go back to the Corona just because there is a bit more flavour there. As a result, it's going to go straight behind it for now into 5th place. So Corona, Budweiser basically sat right in the middle at the moment. Next up, I'm going to go for the other lager here that I have definitely tried, but it hasn't been for a very long time. That is the Coors. As I say, this used to be branded as Coors Light. It doesn't seem to be anymore. It's just called Coors. It says, when the mountain turns blue, it's cold as the Rockies. There we go. You can see it there just at the bottom of the can. There's this kind of little blue icon, and well, when it's too warm, that's not blue anymore, but thankfully this is a nice cold can. This one's rocking in at 4%, so that's pretty standard for a regular UK lager, if I'm honest. I think the Budweiser 4.5 and the Corona 4.5, so a little step down, but not much. It looks very light when pouring. Compared to the other two though, yeah, I mean, the first two were light in colour. The Coors is a smidge lighter again. The head looks good though. It looks put together at this moment in time. It smells sweeter than the others, I think. The Bud has a slight malt sweetness to it. The Corona's a little bit more hop forward. It's not really sweet at all. And the Coors, probably about as sweet as the Budweiser actually, or maybe a smidge more, but there's not much more to it. It's just sweetness. Right then. Cheers. See, that is, wow, interesting. It's big, it's soft, but it is really sweet. It's not sweet compared to like a proper German Helles or any of those traditional really malty beer styles, but to say how little body, how little malt, how low the ABV is, everything else, relatively speaking to the beer, it's very, very sweet. But compared to the other two, I'm a little bit torn here. These three are all very much of a muchness. The Coors really has a sweet and refreshing thing going on. The Budweiser is a little bit more, well, it feels like it's trying to be flavour focused, even though there's not a lot of flavour there. The Corona is very refreshing, but it's maybe just a bit hop orientated and maybe a bit too hop orientated. We're talking about minute levels here, of course, in these beers, but I still think the Corona has just that bit more flavour and I still prefer it. I'm going to go right in the middle between these two. Budweiser is going to be going down a bit, so that moves to number 6. And alarmingly, the Coors sits in at number 5. I did not think Coors was going to outdo Budweiser in this test, but here we are. Now then, onto a beer that, as I said before, I reckon I could have gone my whole life without drinking and I probably wouldn't have regretted it. A Bud Light. This is 3.5%, which is a whole percentage point lower than the big brother Budweiser. And yeah, I mean, this one is already verging on bottom of the list, so I don't have a lot of hope here, but here we go. I mean, pretty much every beer here looks exactly the same. It's big, foamy, white head with, a very light golden body that has next to nothing about it. I said before that the Budweiser didn't smell of a lot. This doesn't smell of a lot, but has like a residual funk to it. I don't know how it's quite that different. I mean, now the Budweiser's been in the glass a moment, a few malty notes are starting to come out in the aroma that weren't present before, but the Bud Light smells synthetic, if I'm honest. It's got a real, yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm not digging it, but we'll give it a go, shall we? Cheers. Oh, no. No, no, no. That's like synthetically sweet. It's somehow got some bitterness, but it's like, that might be the worst beer I've drank on this channel. That, as you probably guessed before I even poured it, is going in right at the dull end there, because I don't know what to say about it. It just nothing. It's got a little bit of sweet maltiness, but it feels forced. It feels fake. It feels synthetic. There's some bitterness there. It feels like hop bitterness, but it feels like, again, synthesized hop oil bitterness, and there's no redeeming feature there. At least I can pick something out of the others and go, okay, you know what? That element of the beer is not bad. There's nothing, really nothing going on with the Bud Light whatsoever. And now we're into, theoretically, the three beers that I think should populate the top 3 points. However, I've only tried one of them before, and that's the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and the other two are completely unknowns to me. So given that we've done all the lagers first, it would only be right to continue with that, and we're going to go with the Modelo. This is a Mexican beer, 4.5%, and I know nothing about it. I know absolutely nothing about it. I didn't go out looking for this beer. It just happened to be available in the Aldi store in the UK, and it's not a regular thing. It was on one of their special buys. So yeah, I'm quite excited for this. I'm hoping it's good because I had to buy a 4-pack, but let's find out, shall we? Okay, so immediately we've drifted out of light beer territory, even if you don't say Budweiser normal's a light beer. All the others before this have got this same, almost identical, really pasty, slightly anemic beer colour to them. This, by comparison, just looks like an island of paradise to me. It's slightly darker, it's richer, it's still lager coloured, but it's got this kind of, it's a little bit of like legit malt coffee tone. It might be synthesized, it might be fake, I don't know. But it looks a bit more like what you'd expect out of a European lager, and as a result, I'm already quite happy about it. So the aroma, it is still dull. I must say, these aren't proper beer glasses. I needed kind of a way to do this fairly, so they've all got the same glass. These are just generic drinking glasses, and it's probably not helping me pick notes out, certainly from the aroma, but it's subtle, it's soft, there's malt and hop in there, which I think is the first time I've been able to say that so far today. It smells like it smells generic, but doesn't smell bad either, so let's give it a go, shall we? Cheers. Ooh, That is not quite as straightforward as I was hoping, if I'm honest. It's definitely a bit richer, a bit fuller bodied, a bit more authentic, if you like. When I say authentic, what I mean is back to basics, base ingredients, German purity law style lager. And whilst it's definitely not a proper German beer, it's a damn sight closer than the previous 4. The carbonation's a bit weird. It's kind of heavily carbonated and flat all at the same time. The conditioning on this beer is poor. The conditioning on the rest of them is actually better, even the Bud Light. This one suffers a bit on the conditioning. As I say, that carbonation seems all over the place, gone flat in the glass. But the flavour itself, there's a bit of a metallic note in there, which I didn't get in any of the others. There's a bit of a lingering bitter sourness, but there is also heaps more flavour. You can really pick out some of the malt in there, some of the hop. And actually, on a baking hot day, I wouldn't hate you if you gave me a bottle of that. So it's a tricky one, and I think really what we're talking about here is how does it fare against the Corona and the Coors? It's definitely leaps ahead of the Budweiser. Really, I guess its main competitor in this setup is the Corona. It's the two Mexican beers. They're trying to do roughly the same thing. Corona's a lot lighter, a bit more zesty. The flatness of this, the Modelo, just is stopping it being quite good. I think in a perfect condition, this would be easily ahead of everything we've done so far. But right here, right now, in this bottle, I think, actually, we're going to have to promote Corona and pop the Modelo in its spot because, well, it's a nice change to everything we've seen so far. It's a bit darker, it's a bit richer, and yet it just doesn't give me the same level of enjoyment overall as that bottle of Corona does. And really early on, I thought Budweiser might actually beat Corona just because its flavour is maybe a bit more balanced, but there's not enough of it. And now, it's a pretty sizable gulf between them. And now we are on to, I guess, the craft beer equivalents. I'm going to go for the one I haven't tried first, which is the Goose Island Goose on the Loose India Pale Ale. It's 5% on the nose. To be honest, this is probably quite a nice transition to everything we've done so far. All of the other beers we've tasted already have been lagers of one sort or another, and we're heading towards the Sierra Nevada at the end, which is inadvertently in the #1 spot. I'll move it out of shot. That is a proper pale ale. This is an India Pale Lager, which effectively means it's a lager like all of these, but it's maybe been seasoned in a way that is a bit more similar to the Sierra Nevada that we'll try afterwards. So there's a nice transition there somewhere. But as I said before, I'm not sure if this is a legit US beer. I'll show you the can close up. But does anyone know, have you seen this in the US before? Because, yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion this has been brewed either for the UK or just the European market. As a result, it might not be the real deal. But Goose Island, they're American, so we're going to include it. So in the glass, that one, it looks very similar to the others. It's an India Pale Lager, so the base is a lager, so in theory, that's not a surprise. It's darker than the Bud Light, the Bud, the Coors, and the Corona, and it's about on a par with the Modelo. If we hold those two up, I think you'll agree. Let's see what it smells like, I guess. Okay, after a world of refreshing lager, that's very different. Again, the India Pale Lager, it's heavily hopped, it's got big hop character, and I'll be honest, when I went out looking for American beer, I wanted an original Goose Island, a Goose Island Pale, Goose Island IPA, just the straight up versions. This, I don't really like India Pale Lagers. That's my thing. I like lager for the maltiness. I definitely don't think lager needs more hop, and this is all hop forward. That said, the hop character that this has got, whilst it is citrus, grapefruit, traditional kind of US IPA notes, there's still some malt character in there. There's still something about it that's still balanced on the aroma. Yes, it's more citrus forward, but this doesn't come across as a bit of a hot mess of one thing trying to be something else. This is about the best smelling IPL I've ever had, so this will be interesting. Cheers. I was really worried about that beer. It's got all the hallmarks of something that should be terrible. Firstly, it's an IPL, something, as I've already said, I do not get on with. It's from Goose Island, who, despite having a good reputation in general, are owned by the multinational AB InBev, and, well, their name will get slapped on anything if they think it will sell it. And onto that, it was available at a very low price in a heavily discounted UK supermarket. They sell cheap stuff, and sometimes that's not a good thing. But weirdly, whilst it's not a great beer, that hop character is nice. It's balanced, it's slightly floral, slightly citric, slightly juicy fruit, and there's a heap of malt character in there. I honestly thought there was every chance that this ended up all the way at number 7 in the last position. And right now, I'm toying as to whether it goes into number 2 or number 3. No, it's done it. That should have been a terrible Goose Island beer. That basically should have been a company exploiting the whole craft beer thing to a low price point. And I think this is why it's dry hopped with Mosaic, Cascade, and Amarillo. Now, Sierra Nevada is pretty much all Cascade, and it has a bit of that reminiscent thing about it. I think Sierra Nevada, as many people would probably have guessed, is likely to be the best beer here. But that one, that is not bad at all. And then we are on to the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And I said I was going to use the same glassware for every beer here to make it fair. The problem is, I've only got 6 of those glasses because I had every intention of this setup being 6 beers, not 7. And the Modelo was the reason that became 7 because I wasn't looking for it, I wasn't expecting it. So I'm going to have to get a proper craft glass for the Sierra Nevada. But to be honest, I know what it tastes like, I know it's fantastic, and it definitely deserves it. So here we go, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I think we all know that this is just absolutely fantastic everyday pale from, well, the godfathers of US craft beer. And I know the glass is different, but look at it. Just look at that in comparison to everything else here. Yes, if you're drinking a lager, you don't want this, right? I get it. But the quality, the fact that it's still cheap here, the fact that I think, well, it probably is the most expensive beer here, actually, when I'm thinking about it, but not by a lot. And the aroma on that is sweet, it's hoppy, it's malty, it's just balanced perfection. And for the last time today, cheers everyone. There's lemon, grapefruit, even melon, watermelon. It's a plethora of fruity notes. And there's not even a question. Sierra Nevada, in the UK at least, is the best beer you can buy from America in a supermarket. But the shock really is this. The fact that Corona is better than all of these other beers, which I think in general, in the US anyway, some of them have a better reputation than Corona, is a shock. But it is. I don't ever want to see a Bud Light again. It's just not very good. Budweiser Original, I can drink it, but it's just so boring, honestly. It's really just a thing on its own. Coors Light probably should have spent more money on the beer than paying Jean-Claude Van Damme to do the adverts, because actually the taste balance is pretty good, but it's too sweet. It's a bit low. You could have got that flavour with, let's say, more conventional methods. Yes, it wouldn't be quite as cheap. I know that's its thing, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of annoying that some of these beers got so close to actually what a good lager is and then just fall down horrifically at the end. The Modelo, I'd like to try that properly conditioned, because actually I think that could have been well up this end, much further than it is right now. But the conditioning on these bottles in the UK was just horrific. But somehow, some way, we've come to the conclusion that if you want a lager that's popular in the USA, Corona is actually the best of what is realistically a pretty bad bunch. But I will say this, with the exception of the Bud Light, I don't think any of these are actually as bad as I thought they were going to be. I thought Bud Light was going to be bad, and to be honest, it was even worse, because I was just expecting watered down Budweiser. This is a synthetic mess all on its own. But from here to here, it's all pretty level pegging. And these could have been ended up in any order, really. The Corona is the standout lager, and as you probably would have guessed from this channel, well, we've got a damn big soft spot for craft beer, and that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is a fantastic one. And that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe, if you would be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers. What am I meant to do with all this beer? This is too much beer. Well, this is too much beer to have open at one time. Like, what am I meant to do here? What am I meant to do? Problems, eh?